concert hall was buzzing with quiet excitement. Every seat was full, and the air smelled faintly of polished wood and floral arrangements. People of all ages had come to watch the renowned pianist perform, and the soft hum of anticipation was almost as intense as the music itself. In one of the rows near the middle, a young girl sat with her hands folded nervously in her lap, her eyes glued to the stage. She had always loved music, and this was a rare chance to be so close to someone she admired. As the pianist played, the notes floated across the room, light and powerful at the same time. The girl could feel the vibrations in the floor and the warmth of the sound filling the space. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the music wash over her, imagining herself playing on a stage like that one day. Her fingers twitched slightly, as if they wanted to reach out and touch the keys themselves. Suddenly, the pianist paused. The hall quieted even more, and all eyes turned toward him. He smiled warmly at the audience and spoke in a calm, inviting voice. "Tonight, I want to do something different. I want someone from the audience to come up and try a piece with me. Don't worry if you've never played in front of a crowd. Just come and share your music with us." A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. People shifted in their seats, some surprised, some curious. The girl's heart began to race. She had never imagined anything like this. She wasn't sure if she could, but a small voice inside her whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. The pianist's eyes scanned the audience, and suddenly they rested on her. "You," he said softly, pointing in her direction. "Would you like to join me on stage?" The girl's stomach dropped. She hadn't expected to be chosen. She felt her face heat up and her palms grow sweaty. Her mind raced with questions and doubts. What if she made a mistake? What if everyone laughed? But even amidst the fear, a spark of excitement flickered. This was a moment that might never happen again, and the idea of playing on stage with someone so talented was too thrilling to ignore. She nodded hesitantly, and a few people around her offered gentle smiles of encouragement. Standing up, she walked toward the stage, each step feeling heavier than the last. The lights seemed brighter, and the audience seemed larger up close. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a quiet hum in her ears. She could hear her own heartbeat, loud and fast, as she approached the piano. When she reached the stage, she paused, looking down at the black and white keys that seemed to stretch endlessly in front of her. She had practiced many times at home, in her small room with her own piano, but this was different. This was real. She could see the pianist watching her with a reassuring smile, and that gave her a little courage. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. The audience watched in silence, waiting to see what she would do. Some people leaned forward in their seats, curious, while others whispered to each other, wondering if she could actually play. She adjusted the piano bench, sitting down carefully, and let her fingers hover over the keys. The pianist nodded encouragingly, and she took another deep breath. Her first note sounded soft and hesitant, almost as if she were testing the water. Then she played another and another, gradually finding her rhythm. The music didn't flow perfectly at first, but with each note, she felt a little more confident. She could hear the audience leaning in, listening, and it gave her the courage to continue. Her hands moved over the keys, slowly at first, but with more fluidity as she played. The pianist gently guided her, adding subtle chords and harmonies, blending their music together. She tried to match his timing and feel, listening carefully to each sound. Her heart was pounding, but she felt a strange sense of calm as well. The stage didn't feel intimidating anymore. It felt like a place where she belonged, even if just for a few minutes. As she continued, she began to notice faces in the audience watching with admiration. Some were smiling, others had their mouths slightly open in surprise. She realized they weren't judging her. They were enjoying her playing. That thought lifted a weight off her shoulders. Her confidence grew, and her fingers moved more freely, creating notes that were delicate and expressive. She could feel the music connecting her to the audience and to the pianist beside her. Time seemed to slow down. She lost track of the nervousness and the fear. All that existed was the music, the keys, and the sound filling the hall. Every note she played seemed to tell a story of her love for music, of all the hours she had spent practicing alone, dreaming of a moment like this. The audience was silent, hanging on every note, captivated by the unexpected performance from someone so young and nervous, yet so talented. The pianist whispered words of encouragement from time to time, guiding her, but mostly letting her lead. She felt a sense of pride and joy she had never experienced before. She was no longer just a girl in the audience. She was a performer, sharing her gift with everyone in the room. The nervousness that had gripped her earlier was gone, replaced by pure excitement and passion. When she finally finished the short piece, there was a moment of silence. Then the audience erupted into applause. She looked up, slightly startled, and saw smiles, nods, and expressions of awe from people all around. The pianist clapped along, beaming with pride. She felt a wave of relief and happiness wash over her. She had done it. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, and it had been worth it. As she stood and bowed, the applause grew even louder. She could hear cheers and clapping, and a few people even whistled in excitement. She felt her heart swell with a mix of gratitude and exhilaration. The stage no longer seemed intimidating. It had become a place of connection, a place where her love for music could be seen and appreciated. After stepping off the stage, she returned to her seat, still trembling slightly from the adrenaline. But the nervousness was gone, replaced by a newfound confidence. She knew this was a moment she would remember forever, a moment that had changed her in ways she could not yet fully understand. She had faced her fear, shared her music, and been embraced by an audience that had seen her talent and courage. The concert continued, but for her, the world had shifted. She had discovered that sometimes the most unexpected opportunities could lead to the most unforgettable experiences. The applause and admiration from the audience stayed with her, echoing in her mind. A reminder that bravery and passion could create moments that leave everyone, even herself, speechless. The young girl felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she walked back onto the stage. Her first experience had been thrilling, but now she knew the real challenge was ahead. She could feel the weight of the audience's eyes on her again, but instead of fear, there was a quiet determination growing inside her. She wanted to do more than just play a few notes. She wanted to truly connect with the music and the people watching her. The pianist smiled warmly and gestured toward the piano. "Take your time," he said softly. "Let the music guide you." His calm presence was reassuring, and she took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. She could see rows of faces looking at her, some filled with curiosity, others with gentle encouragement. She knew she couldn't let them down, but she also realized that she didn't have to be perfect. She just had to play from her heart. Sitting down at the piano bench, she let her hands hover above the keys. The stage felt different this time, more familiar yet still alive with energy. She began to play softly at first, testing her fingers and the rhythm. The audience listened intently, waiting to see what would unfold. As the notes filled the room, she felt a strange mix of confidence and vulnerability. Each key she pressed was a small step forward, a step toward trusting herself and her ability to share music with others. The pianist joined in, adding gentle chords that supported her melody. She learned to listen carefully to his accompaniment, adjusting her pace and volume. It wasn't just about playing the right notes anymore. It was about feeling the music, understanding its flow, and letting it become a conversation between her and the pianist. The audience seemed captivated by this unexpected duet, leaning forward, completely absorbed. With every measure, she began to relax more. Her fingers moved with a newfound ease, gliding across the keys in harmony with the pianist. The music started to take on emotion, expressing joy, wonder, and even a hint of nervous excitement. She realized that the audience wasn't just listening. They were experiencing her journey with her. That connection gave her courage, and she let herself play more freely. She noticed small gestures from the pianist. A nod here, a subtle cue there. He wasn't controlling her performance. He was guiding her, encouraging her to explore her own expression. This made her feel trusted and respected, which in turn made her more confident. The room seemed to shrink around her, leaving only the piano, the music, and the shared experience with the audience. She could feel their attention and energy fueling her, pushing her to play better, to be braver. Time passed quickly, though she couldn't tell exactly how long she had been playing. Her initial nervousness had faded, replaced by a sense of focus and purpose. Every note was deliberate, every chord deliberate, yet fluid. She felt like she was telling a story through the music, a story about courage, hope, and the thrill of stepping into the unknown. The audience responded with subtle smiles, nods, and attentive gazes, showing her that they were captivated and inspired by her performance. She took a deep breath as she approached a more challenging part of the piece. Her fingers hesitated for a moment, and she felt a flicker of doubt. But then she remembered all the hours she had spent practicing alone, the moments when she had imagined playing in front of a crowd, the excitement she had felt just being on stage. Drawing on that memory, she played the passage with care and emotion, letting her confidence shine through. The notes resonated beautifully, echoing in the hall and filling her with pride. The pianist smiled and nodded approvingly, and she felt a surge of encouragement. They moved together in perfect harmony, each supporting the other, creating music that felt alive and dynamic. The audience was silent, hanging on every note, completely immersed in the performance. It was as if the music had taken over, leaving behind any fear or distraction. She felt a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was a way to share herself, to communicate emotions that words could never capture. As she continued, she noticed a few people in the audience leaning forward, their eyes wide with amazement. Some whispered quietly to each other, expressing disbelief at the talent and courage of this young girl. She felt a sense of connection with these strangers, knowing that her music had touched them in some way. That realization made her smile softly, and she allowed herself to play with even more expression and confidence. The piece reached its climax, and she could feel the energy in the room building. Her fingers moved rapidly across the keys, precise yet full of feeling. The pianist mirrored her intensity, creating a powerful harmony that seemed to lift the music off the stage and into the hearts of everyone present. The audience was completely engaged, some with hands clasped, some with eyes closed, absorbing every sound. She could sense their admiration and respect, and it fueled her to give her very best. Finally, the piece drew to a close. She played the last chord with a gentle, deliberate touch, letting it linger in the air. There was a brief moment of silence, a pause where the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Then the applause erupted, louder and more enthusiastic than before. The girl stood and bowed, her heart racing, feeling a mix of relief, joy, and pride. She had faced her fears, played from her heart, and connected with an audience in a way she had never imagined possible. The pianist came forward and gave her a warm smile, clapping for her accomplishment. He spoke to her softly, telling her how proud he was and how natural she had been on stage. She felt a sense of validation and encouragement that made her chest swell with happiness. This experience had not only tested her skills, but had also shown her the power of courage, practice, and believing in herself. As she left the stage for the second time, she realized that something had shifted inside her. She was no longer just a young girl who loved to play piano. She was a performer who had shared her talent with the world, even if just for a few minutes. The experience gave her confidence and a sense of possibility that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. She knew that this was only the beginning, that there would be more opportunities, more challenges, and more moments to grow. Back in her seat, she sat quietly, letting the applause wash over her. The audience's admiration, the pianist's encouragement, and the thrill of performing together had created a memory she would treasure forever. She understood that stepping into the spotlight, even when scared, could lead to experiences that were unforgettable and transformative. Her love for music had deepened, and she felt inspired to continue practicing, learning, and sharing her gift. Even after the concert ended and the crowd began to disperse, she sat in her seat for a moment longer, reflecting on everything that had happened. She thought about the nervous walk to the stage, the hesitant first notes, and the gradual flow of music that had captured everyone's attention. She realized that she had not only performed. She had told a story through her music, a story of courage, growth, and the joy of sharing one's passion. And in that moment, she knew that the piano would always be a part of her journey, guiding her toward new challenges and new triumphs. The girl returned to the piano, her heart still racing from the applause. She took a moment to steady herself, placing her hands lightly on the keys. There was a quiet excitement bubbling inside her, mixed with the usual nerves that came before a performance. She could hear the soft rustle of the audience, the anticipation in the air, and it made her focus sharper. This was her chance to show what she had learned, to play not just with her fingers but with her heart. She began with a simple melody, letting the notes flow gently at first. Her fingers moved carefully, remembering the practice she had done countless times alone in her room. But now it was different. The keys felt alive beneath her touch, and the music seemed to take on a life of its own. She felt the pianist beside her, guiding subtly, but mostly allowing her to lead. It was a partnership, but one that depended on her courage and expression. As she played, she became more aware of the audience watching her. Some faces were full of curiosity, others with admiration, and a few looked slightly skeptical. That made her concentrate even harder, trying to convey her feelings through the piano. She knew that the notes were more than just sounds. They were words, emotions, a story that only music could tell. Each chord she pressed carried a little piece of herself, and she wanted the audience to feel it. The pianist added a soft harmony, supporting her melody without overpowering it. She listened carefully, letting his guidance shape her performance. It was a delicate balance, one that required attention, patience, and trust. She realized that performing was not just about playing perfectly but about listening, responding, and connecting. The audience could sense that connection, and the atmosphere in the hall seemed to shift. The room was no longer just a concert hall. It was a space where emotions could be shared freely. She reached a part of the piece that she had always found challenging. Her fingers hesitated for a moment, but she reminded herself of all the times she had practiced alone, the long hours spent perfecting each passage. Drawing on that experience, she played the notes carefully, letting her confidence guide her. The sound that emerged was smoother than she had hoped, and a sense of relief and pride washed over her. She could see the pianist nodding, encouraging her silently. That small gesture strengthened her resolve. The audience was silent, completely absorbed in the performance. She could see some leaning forward, others closing their eyes, lost in the music. It was a strange and wonderful feeling to be part of something so alive, so shared. The nervousness that had gripped her earlier was gone, replaced by focus, expression, and a growing sense of joy. Each note felt meaningful, each phrase a way to communicate something beyond words. She started to experiment slightly, letting the music take her in unexpected directions. She added soft trills and gentle pauses, moments that felt natural and expressive. The pianist followed her lead, matching her changes with subtle harmonies. Together, they created a dialogue, a back and forth that brought depth to the performance. The girl realized that this was more than playing the piano. It was telling a story, and the story belonged to both of them, yet it was entirely hers to express. Time seemed to stretch and bend. She lost track of everything except the keys, the sound, and the shared energy with the audience. She could feel the room responding to her, every shift in tone and tempo carrying emotion through the hall. Her confidence grew with every measure. She could feel her body relax, her mind focusing entirely on the music, letting the audience see the truth of her expression. Playing had become a conversation, a moment where she could be herself completely, without fear. When she reached a particularly expressive section, she poured her feelings into each note. She thought about all the moments that had led her here, the long practices, the excitement, the doubts, and the courage she had summoned to step onto the stage. She let all of it show in her music. The audience responded in kind, some smiling, some swaying slightly, others completely silent, caught in the emotion of the performance. She felt a connection she had never experienced before, a bond formed not through words but through sound and feeling. The pianist occasionally gave a small nod, a gentle reminder to maintain the flow, but mostly he let her explore. That freedom allowed her to experiment, to express more, and to play with a sense of artistry she hadn't realized she possessed. The music became fluid, graceful, and expressive, carrying her and the audience along. She could feel the energy of the room, the attention, the unspoken support from everyone present. That energy gave her courage and inspiration to continue. As the piece moved toward its climax, her fingers moved more quickly, more assuredly. She felt exhilarated by the challenge, excited to see how the notes would carry her to the end. The pianist followed her lead perfectly, creating a powerful harmony that elevated the performance. The audience seemed completely captivated, their attention unwavering. Every note, every chord, every pause contributed to the story she was telling, and she could sense the emotional impact it was having. She finished the piece with a strong, resonant chord, letting it linger in the air. There was a brief moment of silence, a collective holding of breath, and then the hall erupted into applause. She felt a wave of relief, pride, and joy wash over her. She looked at the audience, seeing their smiles, their admiration, their astonishment, and she realized the depth of the experience she had just shared. The pianist smiled and clapped, showing her that her performance had been remarkable. Standing and bowing, she felt a surge of emotions she hadn't anticipated. Pride, excitement, gratitude, and a sense of accomplishment. She had faced her fears, played from her heart, and shared her passion with a room full of people. The applause, the smiles, the energy in the hall. It was all affirmation that she had done something special, something memorable. She felt a deeper connection to her music and to the audience, a bond that would stay with her forever. Leaving the stage, she returned to her seat with a sense of accomplishment that went beyond any praise. She had discovered a new confidence, a new love for performing in front of others, and a newfound understanding of how music could connect people. She realized that the experience was not just about playing notes. It was about expressing emotion, sharing a story, and connecting with others through something she loved deeply. Even after the concert continued, she remained in her seat, reflecting on what had just happened. She thought about how nervous she had been, how she had doubted herself, and how she had found strength through her love of music. She understood that the stage was not a place to be feared but a space to explore, express, and connect. That realization changed her perspective, giving her the courage to face future challenges with confidence. The experience had also shown her the importance of trust and collaboration. The pianist had given her guidance and freedom, allowing her to grow and express herself fully. She realized that music was not just about individual skill, but about communication, empathy, and shared expression. That lesson would stay with her, influencing not only her music but how she approached challenges in all areas of life. As she left the concert hall that evening, the applause still ringing in her ears, she felt a sense of possibility and inspiration. She knew that this was only the beginning of her journey, that there would be more stages, more opportunities, and more moments to challenge herself and grow. The experience had ignited a fire within her, a determination to continue practicing, learning, and sharing her gift with the world. She walked through the quiet streets, her mind replaying the performance, the reactions of the audience, and the music itself. She felt a deep gratitude for the chance she had been given and a commitment to make the most of it. The music had shown her a path forward, a way to express herself, connect with others, and embrace challenges. And in that moment, she knew that she would never forget the night she had returned to the stage, found her courage, and left everyone speechless with the power of her music. The girl approached the piano for the fourth time, feeling a mix of excitement and anticipation. The applause from the previous performance still echoed in her ears, but this time she felt a new kind of pressure. She knew that she had a chance to show more, to go deeper into her music, and to truly express what she felt inside. Her heart was pounding, but the nervousness that had gripped her in the beginning was gone, replaced by determination and focus. She sat at the piano bench and placed her fingers on the keys. The stage seemed alive beneath her, the lights shining softly, the audience quietly watching. The pianist beside her offered a reassuring smile and a small nod, and she felt a wave of confidence wash over her. This time, she knew she could let herself play more freely, not worrying about perfection but focusing on the emotion of the music. She started the piece gently, letting the melody flow naturally. Her fingers moved with more confidence, gliding over the keys with a rhythm that felt instinctive. The pianist added a subtle harmony, supporting her without overwhelming the music. She realized that performing was not just about notes and timing. It was about expression, feeling, and connecting with the audience. She could feel their attention, their curiosity, and their quiet admiration, and it inspired her to play even more passionately. As she continued, she began to feel the music in her body, not just in her fingers. Every note carried a message, every chord a feeling. She allowed herself to become completely absorbed in the performance, letting the piano become an extension of her emotions. She could hear the hall resonating with her music, the way the sound filled the space and touched the people listening. It was a magical feeling, one that made her forget about fear and doubt. The pianist followed her lead, adding gentle chords and harmonies that enhanced the music. She learned to listen carefully, to respond to his cues, and to find her own voice within the collaboration. It was a delicate balance, one that required trust and awareness. She realized that the performance was not just about her alone. It was a shared experience, a conversation between her, the pianist, and the audience. That understanding gave her a sense of responsibility and pride. As she approached a more complex section of the piece, her fingers moved with precision and grace. She had practiced this part many times at home, but now it felt different. The stage, the audience, and the pianist beside her added a new dimension to the music. She could feel the emotion behind each note, and she allowed herself to express it fully. The audience responded, leaning forward, listening intently, completely captivated by her performance. She felt a deep connection with them, knowing that her music was reaching their hearts. She added subtle variations to the melody, experimenting with dynamics and phrasing. The pianist matched her changes, creating a seamless dialogue between them. The music became more expressive, more alive, and more personal. She felt a sense of liberation, realizing that she could tell a story through her playing. Each note was a word, each chord a sentence, and together they formed a narrative that the audience could understand without any words. She felt proud and exhilarated, knowing that she was sharing something meaningful. The audience remained silent, completely immersed in the music. She could see their expressions, the way they leaned in, the subtle nods of appreciation, and it motivated her to continue. She played with passion and emotion, letting the music flow naturally. The pianist's presence beside her was comforting, and she felt supported in every note. The collaboration allowed her to explore the depth of the piece, to push her abilities, and to experience the joy of performing at a higher level. As she reached the climax of the piece, her fingers moved swiftly and confidently across the keys. She felt a surge of energy and excitement, knowing that she had reached a moment of true expression. The pianist mirrored her intensity, creating a powerful harmony that filled the hall with sound and emotion. The audience was completely engaged, captivated by the performance, and she felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. She realized that she had grown as a performer, that her music could move people, and that her courage had led her to this moment. She finished the piece with a strong, resonant chord, letting it linger in the air. There was a brief moment of silence, a pause where the audience seemed to hold its breath, and then the applause erupted. She stood and bowed, her heart racing, feeling a mix of relief, joy, and pride. The audience's reaction was overwhelming, and she felt a deep sense of validation. She had faced her fears, played from her heart, and shared her music in a way that had touched others. It was a moment she would never forget. The pianist came forward and smiled, clapping for her accomplishment. He spoke softly, praising her skill and courage, and she felt a sense of pride and encouragement that lifted her spirits. She realized that performing was not just about talent but about dedication, practice, and the willingness to take risks. The experience had taught her the importance of courage, perseverance, and self-expression. It had also shown her the power of music to connect people and create shared experiences. As she returned to her seat, she reflected on the performance. She thought about how nervous she had been at the beginning, how she had overcome her fear, and how she had grown as a musician. She understood that each performance was a learning experience, a chance to explore her abilities and express herself. The applause and admiration from the audience were rewarding, but the real value was in the growth and confidence she had gained. She felt inspired to continue practicing, learning, and sharing her music with others. Even after the concert ended and the audience began to leave, she stayed in her seat for a moment longer, savoring the memory of the performance. She thought about the journey that had led her to this point, the long hours of practice, the determination to face her fears, and the joy of discovering her own potential. She realized that music was not just a hobby but a part of who she was, a way to communicate, connect, and inspire. The experience had also taught her the value of trust and collaboration. The pianist had guided her gently, giving her freedom to express herself while providing support and encouragement. She understood that performing was a shared experience, one that required listening, responding, and connecting with others. This lesson would stay with her, influencing her approach to music and life. As she left the concert hall, the applause still ringing in her ears, she felt a sense of possibility and inspiration. She knew that this was only the beginning of her journey, that there would be more stages, more performances, and more opportunities to challenge herself and grow. The experience had ignited a passion within her, a determination to continue practicing, learning, and sharing her music. She understood that courage, dedication, and self-expression could create moments that were unforgettable and transformative. Walking through the quiet streets, she replayed the performance in her mind, thinking about the audience's reactions, the music, and the connection she had felt with the pianist. She felt a deep gratitude for the opportunity and a commitment to make the most of her talent. The experience had shown her that stepping out of her comfort zone could lead to incredible growth and joy. She knew that she would carry this memory with her forever, a reminder of the power of music, courage, and self-expression. The girl walked onto the stage once again, her heart beating faster than ever. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, but this time it was different. She had played for the audience before, felt their energy, and had learned that she could share her music with them. Now, she was ready to go further, to let herself play with full expression, and to leave her mark on everyone listening. The lights on the stage seemed brighter, and the quiet hum of the audience made her feel both alive and focused. She sat at the piano bench and let her hands hover above the keys. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes for a moment, and then began to play. The first notes were soft, deliberate, and full of emotion. The pianist beside her added gentle chords, providing support and creating a harmony that lifted the music. She listened carefully to the sound, letting it guide her, and gradually, her fingers moved with more confidence and freedom. This was no longer just a performance. It was a dialogue between her, the pianist, and the audience. As she continued, the music began to flow naturally. She played with emotion, letting each note convey her feelings, joy, wonder, and even a hint of nervous excitement. The audience was captivated. Some leaned forward in their seats. Others closed their eyes, completely absorbed in the music. She could feel their attention, their energy, and it gave her courage to continue playing boldly. Her fingers glided over the keys, creating melodies that were delicate and expressive, filled with emotion and life. The pianist followed her lead, matching her expressions with harmonies that enhanced the music. She realized that performing was not just about technical skill but about expression, listening, and responding. Every chord, every pause, every subtle shift in tempo conveyed something deeper. The audience could sense that, and it seemed to make them hold their breath, fully immersed in the experience. She felt a deep connection with them, knowing that her music was touching hearts and creating a shared moment. She approached a particularly challenging section of the piece, where the notes moved quickly and required precision. Her fingers hesitated for just a moment, but she drew strength from her practice and the encouragement of the pianist. She played with care, letting the notes flow naturally, and the music came alive. The audience reacted with quiet awe, some nodding, some leaning closer, all absorbed in the beauty of what they were hearing. She felt a surge of pride and joy, realizing that she had the ability to perform at this level, even under pressure. The girl started to experiment slightly, adding gentle flourishes and subtle variations to the melody. The pianist responded perfectly, creating a dynamic interplay that made the music richer and more expressive. She felt a sense of freedom and artistry, realizing that she could tell a story through her playing. Each note was a word, each phrase a sentence, and together they formed a narrative that the audience could understand without needing any words. She felt proud and exhilarated, knowing that she was sharing something meaningful. Time seemed to stretch as she played. She lost track of everything except the music, the keys, and the shared energy with the audience. Her nervousness had completely faded, replaced by focus, joy, and expression. She could feel the room responding to her every note, and it encouraged her to play even more passionately. Her fingers moved quickly yet gracefully, conveying emotion, story, and energy through every chord and melody. As the music built toward its climax, she poured her heart into the performance. Her fingers danced over the keys with precision and feeling, each note rising and falling like a wave. The pianist mirrored her intensity, creating a powerful harmony that resonated through the hall. The audience was completely captivated. They could sense the emotion, the dedication, and the courage in every sound. Some closed their eyes, some leaned forward, and some held their breath, completely absorbed in the performance. She reached the final section, where the music required both strength and delicacy. Her fingers moved swiftly and confidently, expressing everything she had learned and felt during the performance. The hall seemed to vibrate with the energy of the music, and she felt a deep sense of connection with everyone present. The pianist nodded occasionally, giving gentle cues, but mostly allowing her to express herself fully. This was her moment, and she embraced it completely. The final chord approached, and she played it with a strong, deliberate touch. The sound lingered in the air, filling the room and touching the hearts of everyone listening. There was a brief pause, a silence where it seemed as though the entire audience was holding its breath, and then the hall erupted into applause. The girl stood and bowed, her chest swelling with pride, relief, and joy. The applause was overwhelming, the cheers and claps filling the room with energy and admiration. She looked at the audience, seeing their smiles, their astonishment, and their admiration. She felt a deep sense of validation and connection, realizing that she had left a mark on everyone present. The pianist approached and smiled, clapping for her and offering words of praise. She felt a surge of encouragement and happiness, knowing that her hard work, courage, and love for music had created a powerful moment. It was not just a performance. It was an experience, a story told through sound, and she had shared it fully. As she returned to her seat, she reflected on what had just happened. She thought about the nervous girl who had walked onto the stage hours earlier, unsure and hesitant. That girl had grown, had embraced courage, and had expressed herself in a way that left everyone speechless. She understood that this experience was not just about music but about bravery, self-expression, and connection. She had faced her fears and discovered the joy and power of sharing her talent with others. Even after the concert continued and people began to leave, she stayed in her seat, savoring the memory of the performance. She thought about the audience's reactions, the music, and the feeling of being part of something larger than herself. She realized that this was only the beginning of her journey, that there would be more stages, more performances, and more opportunities to grow. The experience had inspired her, filled her with confidence, and deepened her love for music. The girl also understood the importance of collaboration and trust. The pianist had guided her, provided support, and allowed her freedom to express herself fully. That balance had made the performance extraordinary, showing her that music is not only about skill but about listening, responding, and connecting with others. This lesson would stay with her, influencing not just her music but her approach to challenges and opportunities in life. As she walked out of the concert hall that evening, the applause still echoing in her ears, she felt a sense of wonder and possibility. She knew that her courage, dedication, and love for music could lead to more incredible moments. The experience had ignited a passion within her, a determination to continue practicing, learning, and sharing her gift. She understood that stepping into the spotlight, facing fear, and expressing oneself fully could create unforgettable, transformative experiences. The girl walked through the quiet streets, replaying the performance in her mind. She remembered every detail: the music, the audience, the pianist, and the feeling of connection. She felt deep gratitude for the opportunity and a commitment to pursue her passion. Music had given her a way to express herself, to connect with others, and to embrace challenges. She realized that this night had changed her, giving her confidence, inspiration, and a memory she would cherish forever. She knew that this was just the beginning. There would be more performances, more challenges, and more opportunities to grow. The experience had shown her that courage and self-expression could leave a lasting impression, not just on herself but on everyone around her. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue her journey with passion, dedication, and joy. The stage, the piano, and the music had become a part of her, guiding her toward a future filled with possibility, creativity, and unforgettable moments. After the applause had finally faded and the audience began to leave, the girl stayed seated for a moment, letting the experience sink in. Her hands still tingled from the piano keys, and her heart raced with a mix of joy, pride, and disbelief. She had done it. She had stepped out of the audience and onto the stage, played with courage, shared her music, and left everyone speechless. She realized this moment was more than a performance. It was a turning point in her life. As she made her way off the stage, the pianist approached her with a warm smile and gentle words of encouragement. He praised her skill, her bravery, and the emotion she had conveyed through her playing. She felt a rush of gratitude and a deep sense of accomplishment. The experience had not only tested her abilities, but had also shown her the power of confidence, preparation, and self-expression. It was a lesson she would carry with her forever. Back in her seat, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the nervous anticipation before her first notes, the moments of hesitation, the careful attention to each key, and the gradual flow of music that had connected her to the pianist and the audience. She thought about all the hours of practice she had devoted to the piano, often alone in her room, and how that dedication had prepared her for this moment. She realized that courage was built from persistence, preparation, and the willingness to embrace opportunity. After leaving the concert hall, she found herself approached by people who had been in the audience. Some offered kind words, praising her performance, while others shared how moved they had been by her music. She felt a sense of connection with these strangers, understanding that her music had reached them in a meaningful way. It was a reminder that sharing her passion could touch lives, inspire others, and create memories that would last long after the performance ended. In the following days, the experience continued to resonate with her. She thought about the lessons she had learned, the importance of stepping out of her comfort zone, trusting herself, and embracing opportunities even when fear was present. She reflected on how music could communicate emotions and stories that words could not capture. The applause, the smiles, the captivated faces in the audience. They were not just recognition of talent, but affirmation of courage and authenticity. The girl began to approach her practice differently. She no longer focused solely on technical perfection, but also on expression, storytelling, and connection. Each piece she played became an opportunity to convey emotion, to share a part of herself, and to touch the hearts of listeners. She understood that music was more than an activity. It was a way to communicate, inspire, and create meaningful experiences. Her love for the piano deepened, and her determination to grow as a musician strengthened. She also began to recognize the value of guidance and collaboration. The pianist's gentle support, encouragement, and ability to give her freedom to express herself had been invaluable. She realized that learning from others, listening, and trusting in collaboration could elevate her performance and help her grow in ways she could not achieve alone. This understanding influenced not only her approach to music, but also how she interacted with teachers, mentors, and peers in other areas of her life. As weeks passed, she received invitations to perform at other events. Each new opportunity was exciting, but also a chance to apply what she had learned. She approached each performance with the same focus, courage, and heart, remembering the thrill and joy of her first time on stage. She continued to practice diligently, honing her skills while also exploring new ways to express herself. The experience had transformed her approach, making her a more confident, expressive, and inspiring performer. Her story began to spread, first among friends and family, and then more widely. People were inspired by her courage, her talent, and the way she had shared her music with authenticity. She became a symbol of what could happen when preparation, passion, and bravery came together. The recognition was not just about being a skilled pianist, but about the impact she had on others through her music and her willingness to step into the spotlight. Through all of this, she never forgot the feeling of walking onto the stage for the first time, the nervous anticipation, and the moment her fingers touched the keys. She understood that growth came from facing challenges, taking risks, and believing in herself. The experience had given her confidence not just as a musician, but as a person capable of achieving great things when she embraced opportunity and effort. She continued to perform, each time building on the lessons of that first stage experience. She experimented with new pieces, explored different styles, and learned to convey deeper emotions through her playing. She discovered that music could be a bridge, connecting people across experiences and backgrounds. The joy of seeing an audience moved by her performance became a source of motivation and fulfillment. In her private moments, she reflected on the impact of courage and authenticity. She understood that the most meaningful experiences often came from stepping outside of comfort zones and embracing vulnerability. She had shared herself through music, and in doing so, had created moments of beauty and connection that were unforgettable. This understanding became a guiding principle in her life, influencing not only her music but her approach to challenges, relationships, and personal growth. Years later, she would look back on that night as a defining moment. The memory of being called onto the stage, the nervous anticipation, the collaboration with the pianist, and the captivated audience would remain vivid. She understood that it was not just the applause or recognition that mattered, but the courage to embrace opportunity, the commitment to practice and prepare, and the willingness to express oneself fully. That night had shaped her path, inspiring her to continue pursuing music, creativity, and self-expression with passion and confidence. The girl's journey had taught her that talent alone was not enough. It was dedication, courage, and heart that made a performance truly extraordinary. She realized that each performance was a chance to connect, to inspire, and to grow. She approached each new challenge with the same mindset, knowing that preparation, practice, and authenticity could create moments that were unforgettable for both her and the audience. Through all of her experiences, she remained grounded in the joy of music. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was a medium for expression, connection, and storytelling. She understood the power of music to touch hearts, to evoke emotion, and to create lasting memories. Her passion for music became intertwined with her identity, guiding her actions, inspiring her growth, and shaping her journey. Looking back on her life, she recognized that the night she was called onto the stage marked the beginning of a new chapter. It had given her courage, confidence, and a deep appreciation for the transformative power of music. She had learned that stepping into the spotlight, facing fears, and expressing oneself fully could lead to experiences that were both meaningful and life-changing. That understanding would continue to guide her in every performance, every challenge, and every opportunity that lay ahead. The girl's story became an inspiration to others, showing that courage, preparation, and passion could create moments of magic. She understood that sharing one's talents, embracing vulnerability, and connecting with others through authentic expression could leave a lasting impact. She continued to play, to perform, and to inspire, carrying the lessons of that first stage experience with her in every note, every chord, and every melody. The experience had changed her life forever, leaving her, and everyone who heard her, truly speechless.